Like I totally have a manipulative side that I'm aware of. I was totally made aware of that when I did the steps. And so to be at peace with myself, I have to watch for that shit. Like I have to watch for, okay, am I really doing this out of, a place of purity, or I'm trying to get something, And I'm not at peace. I don't have serenity when I'm trying to get something from somebody else. And I can see it in myself now.
Welcome to Amy Liz Harrison's podcast, Eternally Amy, a mum of eight's journey from jail to joy. A Gen Xer who overcame her struggle with alcohol to become a best-selling author and mental health advocate. She shares stories of hope and offers ideas for others struggling with mental health challenges, spirituality, ADHD, or maybe just family, travel, and logistics. One thing is for sure, you'll leave with something to chew on. And now, here's your host, Amy Liz Harrison, with your mystery meat sandwich.
Greetings, compadres. For your mystery meat sandwich. Healing takes courage, and we all have courage, even if we have to dig around a bit to find it. Tori Amos. Okay? Healing takes courage, and we all have courage, even if we have to dig around a bit to find it. So I can't blame anybody else for my behaviors, though I like to rationalize and justify and try to do that. I cannot. I've learned over the years, and that just escaping to change the way I feel is just putting over a wound like this kind of lame Band-Aid, the kind that don't have very much adhesive and they don't stick. It's just kind of unproductive. And I think that was the biggest thing that I learned in my fourth step when I did my steps for 12-step fellowship, is that when I sat down and I looked at my part in things, it was just eye-opening. I didn't think I had a part in a lot of the issues that went on my resentments list. And I learned later that, oh no, I actually 100% had a part, even if my part was letting something rule over my life and completely run my life. And so that's kind of the way that I started to look at things from a different perspective, was realizing, yeah, I'm powerless over a lot of stuff, but I also have control over a lot of stuff. And that was kind of life-changing for me, quite honestly.
And now, onto the Chaplains Chat.
As I move into the Chaplains Chat, this is going to be 10 ways to spot an Enneagram type 2, the giver. Okay? So you're joining in the middle of this. There, of course, was a 10 ways to spot an Enneagram type 1, the perfectionist. And so you can go back and listen to that, or you can just pick it up here. Does not matter. And you can always jump online and find a real serious deep dive. But if we're going to jump into just a little bit of a blurb for the type 2, core motivations and fears of type 2. 2s are generally defined by their desire to belong and to be loved by others. They're helpful, nurturing, and caring. They're eager to involve themselves in others' lives. And 2s rarely say no when they are asked by others to do something. And they want to prove their value to others by always being there for them. I'm sure many of us can think of some 2s that we know in our lives. And so deepest fear, 2s would fear, from my understanding, being alone and being unloved. And they cope with this fear by taking care of others and making themselves central in other people's lives. So again, this is not like the end-all be-all, not true for every 2 specifically, but just trying to give you a picture so that maybe if you are a 2, you could see yourself in some of these. Okay, core motivation. Enneagram 2s want to feel loved and appreciated. which motivates them to express love toward others in their words and actions. So again, if you have any kind of 2 being the highest number that you came out with for your types, then you probably relate to some of this. I know that, just because we're human and we have all of these types and we're more aware of some, or we resonate more than we would others, I can always pull out a few things that I relate with on 2s for sure. All right, number 2, key personality traits of the type 2. So number 1 was the core motivations and fears. Number 2, remember this is 10 ways to spot an Enneagram type 2. The key personality traits: a warm smile, warm eyes, approachable, radiating kindness, a volunteer or an activist, maybe an excellent team player, caring and gentle, nurturing and patient, and smooth and flowing movements in social circles. I really liked that one. I thought that was pretty good. I don't know. And number 3. So number 3 of 10 ways to spot an Enneagram type 2. A strong sense of meaning, acknowledgement from loved ones, and emotional intimacy with others are givers' grounding principles. Altruism holds a strong place in their hearts, as far as I understand it, and they readily go out of their way to volunteer time and energy to bring others up. So encouragement would be a big trait to look for, and kindness and reciprocity are guiding values for their decisions. So to improve somebody else's life or mood is immeasurably better than helping themselves. And as far as I have seen personally, this can actually lead to kind of vacillating between the martyr and the victim, and the martyr and the victim. So it's just something to watch for. And then finally, a core value is the shared experience of spending quality time with a loved one. And that is one of the, as far as I have understood it, one of the greatest feelings in the world to type 2s is really that sense of love and connection. So number 4, how to recognize an Enneagram type 2. In public, givers are the people that strangers are naturally drawn to for directions or advice. They possess a strong aura of approachability. Now, I know you know someone like this. I am currently thinking of my mother, who will say that she doesn't go out of her way to talk to people, and that people just come up to her and start a conversation in an airport or something. But it's not really true. I've seen her provoke it. I'm just saying. Then what happens is people love talking to my mom. And so then a conversation ensues. And then the next thing you know, my mom can tell you everything about that person's dentures and how they went to, Tulsa and then ended up in Burlington, Vermont. And it just goes on and on. Sidebar. Sorry. So they're highly attuned to the needs of others and can be seen as the mother or father figure of a group of friends. At home or alone, they continually make an effort to keep in touch with loved ones. Very true. Sorry, Mom. This is all good stuff, but sorry I'm mentioning this, but these are your wonderful characteristics, whether that's through homemade dishes, tender words, or surprise gifts. My mom's done all these. They are attuned to others' love languages and enjoy putting a smile on people's faces. And that is really true. My mom has always been, by the way, a connector of sorts. So like when I was growing up, my mom would say, hey, we've got Mother's Day coming up. So, she'd call the grandmas on both sides, check in, see what they wanted to do, whose turn it was to host. My mom would kind of plan it all out and, okay, you're going to bring the Waldorf salad. You're going to bring the Jell-O salad with the suspended mushrooms. And then she would, tell both parties this, and then she would be the one to call my aunt and relay all the information. She was kind of always like that, in charge of all the gathering details. All right. So number 5 of 10 ways to spot an Enneagram 2. All right. When Enneagram 2s are healthy and when they're not so healthy. So 2s are selfless caregivers who are fulfilled by freely giving unconditional love. They're comfortable with sharing their own needs with others and a secure and healthy give and take balance. They acknowledge one another's required distance and develop secure attachment styles. They're able to practice mindfulness and understand the meaning of altruism. They recognize their own self-worth and can gently guide others towards theirs as well. Givers understand the meaning of empathy and are able to have a genuine heart-to-heart connection with another human being, as I mentioned. When they're doing okay, when they're average, 2s assume the martyr role in relationships occasionally, and as far as I understand it, constantly seek ways to feel important by attending to other people's needs. So probably just something to look for if you are a 2, and just to be sure that I know for me, my parts of a 2 come out in the ways sometimes of my motives. I have to check my motives to make sure that I'm really doing things from a really pure heart and not because I feel obligated to, or because I feel like somebody will like me better if I do this, so I'll just do it, but to really be true to myself and be operating from a place of purity. So givers may burn out. I'm sure we've seen this or experienced this, and overcompensate. And they may use possibly flattery or compliments in order to gain acceptance and appreciation within a community or within a relationship. And they can also be hypersensitive to the approval from others, the approval of others, and the appraisal of others, especially those they truly care about. So I see myself a lot in that, by the way, in that last nugget, is that I definitely feel I'm actually better now, but it's something that I've had to work on, is the approval of others. When they are unhealthy, 2s fall into a pit of self-despair and criticism, constantly looking for others' faults and wrongdoings. So they try to gain control over relationships and may become either overly clingy or overbearing. Okay, so now there's an excuse for every action, and they can play the victim card in order to gain sympathy and reassurance. So finally, they unleash their manipulative side. Ooh, ouch. Now, I'm going to say I have one of those. So I'm not like in any kind of a glass house throwing stones. Like, I totally have a manipulative side that I'm aware of. I was totally made aware of that when I did the steps. And so to be at peace with myself, I have to watch for that shit. Like, I have to watch for, okay, am I really doing this out of, a place of purity, or am I really, I'm trying to get something, and I'm not at peace. I don't have serenity when I'm trying to get something from somebody else. And I can see it in myself now through all the, work I've done on self-awareness of myself. And it's not a terrible thing. It's empowering, right? Because then I get to make a different choice. And they mindlessly can, back to number 2s, blame other people for their suffering and misery. And again, just coming back to, for me, looking for somebody else to blame for things that I'm actually in charge of and in control of or responsible for. So givers can base their self-worth on the opinions of those that they've helped. And if received with criticism, they can wallow in despair and develop various forms of physical illnesses, aches, fevers, and nausea. Now that all sounds like terrible. So I have to say, I'm not a fan of that. But it is interesting to me that we can actually make ourselves sick by really falling into some of these negative patterns of our personality types. I just think it's interesting. I've seen it in my own, and so I know it's a thing. At least it's a thing for me. Number 6 of the 10 ways to spot an Enneagram 2, growth tips. So if you are a growth-minded individual and you are a type 2, maybe some of these suggestions could be something to ponder. Okay, first one is practice mindfulness for your own personal growth. So when 2s learn how to step outside of themselves and see their personality more objectively, they can observe patterns in their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. By observing yourself from an outside perspective, you can better understand where you need to set boundaries and practice self-care. Yep, well, that's for me 100%. Even though 2 is not my highest one, that's for sure something that I identify with. Take note of your own feelings about things. So 2s often deny their own emotions and needs while prioritizing the needs of other people. Growth for a type 2 lies in acknowledging and accepting your own emotions. Activities like journaling can help 2s to get more in touch with their emotions. Something tactile that I always have my sponsees do is I always have them write out their step work, which seems very Generation X to some of the younger ones. But there's something about, I don't know, there's this ownership thing that happens when you're writing it, this personalization kind of a deal that, I don't know, connects like heart to mind to hand. There's something that just happens, a magic that happens when you journal or write something out in your own handwriting, I personally think. Okay, next is practicing self-love. So 2s can feel trapped in their need to please other people. If approval is not easy to gain, the giver may feel unworthy because they're not appreciated. It's essential for 2s, as far as I understand it, to learn to love who they truly are. Learn to set healthy boundaries. So type 2s are known for giving more energy to others than they may actually have to give. And this leaves them feeling depleted, maybe even detached from their own identity. And 2s flourish when they learn how to set healthy boundaries focused on their needs. That's like really tough. Like, I mean, we could do like a whole thing on boundaries, right? And then finally, share your authentic self with other people. So 2s tend to alter their personalities to please the people around them, which I do. So I totally get that. Make a conscious effort to be transparent and honest about how they think and feel might be growth for them. And then the other side of it is they can also learn that people truly value their authentic selves. So the 2's authentic self, and they want to see that come through, as far as I understand it. And I would say that is very true for me. Is I love seeing people's true and authentic self. And it's just, to me, just such a beautiful thing as I've learned to kind of, in a healthy spot, step into my own personality type and just embrace that. And, you know, it's a beautiful thing about everybody having different strengths and weaknesses and things to bring to the table. Okay. Number 7 of 10 ways to spot an Enneagram type 2. Do you identify with any of these celebrities? So, these are some famous Enneagram type 2s. Dolly Parton, and I really want to sing 9 to 5 right now, but I won't. P.S. If you haven't seen that movie, you have to see 9 to 5. Even if you're young, you just have to see it. It's great. Okay, Mother Teresa, Nancy Reagan, Jimmy Carter. This guy I love, also a type 2, Desmond Tutu. May he rest in peace. Died sort of recently in this past year. Sad. Celine Dion, Jennifer Garner, Maya Angelou, Lewis Carroll, who wrote Alice in Wonderland, and then a variety of folks from different movies and shows. Hagrid from Harry Potter, Pam Beesly from The Office, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so most of this information is pulled from two sources. One is a website called truity.com and some parts from a book called Discover the 9 Types of People by Harper One. Number 8 of the top 10, not just 10, top 10. I'm just kidding. It's actually just 10 ways to spot an Enneagram 2. All right. So this is going to be as children. So maybe as children. Now keep in mind, as far as I have understood it, you can totally be one personality type as a child and then switch to something else as an adult. And that, your entire life may not remain the same as far as I understand it. So who knows? Okay, so as children, type 2s can be very sensitive to disapproval and criticism and try hard to please their parents by being helpful and understanding or outwardly compliant or trying to be popular with other children, act precocious and dramatic in order to get attention, or they can be extroverted clowns or be codependent or extra quiet and shy. So me personally, I have to say I can't identify with the extra quiet and shy, but all the rest of it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I might have been a 2 as a child, like 100% me. It's just interesting, to reread this and just go, wow, I wish I would have been typed as a child, but oh well, woulda, coulda, shoulda. And as we move into number 9, we're going to look at number 9 of 10 ways to spot an Enneagram 2 as parents. Okay. Type 2 can be good listeners as parents, love their children unconditionally, be warm, encouraging, suffer guilt if they aren't. They can be super playful and also have that introspective, wondering if I'm doing this right. Am I giving enough? Could I be the one causing some irreparable damage kind of thing? And be fiercely protective. So here it is. Type 2 in relationships. So an Enneagram type 2 in relationships is going to be the 10th of 10 ways to spot an Enneagram 2. So Enneagram 2s truly elevate and focus on romantic relationships. They love to give their huge hearts to someone special. Because of this, finding a partner is so important. And that is one thing that they are so good at too. And getting the approval from that other person, having that reciprocal relationship. 2s are intuitive and can actively read the people around them. Really good at reading people as far as I understand. And aligning with their perceived moods and preferences in order to maximize the possibility of connection. So that's not even just a romantic connection, but just a connection with another person. However, sometimes they go to great lengths to give to others through helpfulness in order to get their own needs met. And 2s bring positive and often super effervescent, bubbly energy to important situations, such as when a partner is grieving a personal loss with work or with extended family, and that person will work hard to please their partner. And I love that the word clown was mentioned in the parents section of this. The children's section of this, not parents. I think a clown parent would be fun though. But the whole idea of clown, I know for me, when something is happening, when my partner is going through something, my husband is having a terrible day, I like to kind of give it a shuffle ball change and kind of oh, look over here at this funny thing. And I just like to shift gears and try and brighten the mood sometimes. And that is just not always what somebody else wants to hear, I've learned over time. Anyway, I just like the whole clown thing. I thought that was great because I I think that's a great thing. I think clowns are not just scary. I think they can be super fun as well. Back to 2s in relationships. They frequently repress their own anger, sadness, anxiety, or hurt feelings to please others. However, when their feelings are hidden, they come out in ways that can feel manipulative eventually, prideful and controlling to those around them, simply because it's that, as far as I understand it, the beach ball thing, right? Like, I'm going to just push this down so that I don't deal with it, but eventually it's going to come up, right? So if you love a 2, remind them to use their thought life to guide them into a quiet time each morning, always beneficial for every type, every person, right? So that they can prioritize their day with what is truly needed versus what seems to be needed. Because sometimes giving too much energy to a situation robs us of our own self-care. Remind them to revisit the past for cues and look to the future for their plans, to make active plans and to learn from the past and let go instead of trying to alter or manipulate a situation. And I know manipulation is just a word that is just, it seems really ugly, and it just seems like not a word of something that I would want to be. But I use that word because I feel like I can tend to be manipulative, as I mentioned. So anyway, I think that it just can be that sometimes we have inner needs or fears and we don't recognize it right away. And so sometimes our behaviors can come out in ways that we don't recognize as being manipulative until later. And that's all fine, because P.S., everybody does it. So remember that 2s feel in order to receive love. So feel like emotional feelings toward giving. They want to give, and it isn't out of anything usually but a desire to genuinely find love. So even if manipulation is part of that, it is because they want to give the huge amount of love that their heart holds. So encourage your 2. If you love a 2, encourage them in their chosen love languages, not just yours, and try to help them feel safe by regularly assuring them that they are the most special person in your heart, especially if you happen to be someone who does not show it outwardly all the time.
Finally, here's your bailout bag.
So, for the bailout bag, take what you like and leave the rest. Remember that, I talk a lot about being a spiritual being and having a human experience, which I have heard from many, many teachers, gurus, read in many books before. It is a path that is well trodden, perhaps even paved. And there's a reason for that, I think, is that, we're never reaching some end all be all goal of, I am perfect now, and this is the way that, I'm going to live my life as this untouchable, perfect being. And, our perfection is found in our imperfections, I think, and it's just in the way to realize that as we move forward on fresh footing every day, we get to make choices on how we want to contribute positively to the stream of life. And I know for me, that's something that is super important, that I stay curious, that every time I feel that kind of twinge of like, no, I don't do that. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not about that. I'm mad at that. That's when I actually really need to pay attention, because maybe there's a message in there that I need to hear or something I need to work on. And so there's a lot of areas that I need improvement on in my life. And maybe I'm not the only one. All right. So take what you like, leave the rest, and remember to be kind, rewind. Thank you for the honor of your time.
Thank you so much for listening to Eternally Amy. Amy Liz Harrison is a best-selling author, speaker, 12-step coach, meditation teacher, and recovery advocate. To find out more, please visit amylizharrison.com. Keep up with Amy on all platforms by following @AmyLizHarrison. Please subscribe and review this podcast. It means so much to us if you do.